Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you about a truly amazing record, easily one of the greatest jazz recordings ever made. I've never said that about any record that I've talked about on this channel, ever. I don't care if it's a John Coltrane record or a Hank Mobley record, who all made incredible records, but this is a standout recording of importance in more ways than one. Of course, I'm talking about Woody Shaw's Black Stone Legacy, which has been an extremely hard title to find for many, many, many years. I've only seen it at the Jazz Record Center 2 or 3 times, but this is an amazing reissue done by Craft Recordings Jazz Dispensary and Jazz Dispensary's Top Shelf imprint, featuring an all-star lineup including Gary Bartz, Ron Carter, Benny Maupin, and the great Lenny White on drums. And all analog mastering from the original tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, pressed at RTI, and housed in a gatefold tip-on jacket. This is a wonderful jacket. I found everything from Jazz Dispensary to be up to Kraft's general standards of quality. This is a beautiful laminated sleeve. The sleeve on the original is just a flat matte sleeve. This has liner notes by, it has the original Nat Hentoff liner notes and photos that were not in the original. The original, it was a gatefold too. I might be having that wrong. But this is a profound recording. It's Woody Shaw's debut as a leader, recorded in '69, released in 1970. Many of the tunes on here have become modern classics, such as the title track, Think on Me by George Cables, New World by George Cables, Bouan's Grind by Woody Shaw. This is a magical performance. First of all, the compositions are just dynamite. They're very forward-thinking. It's post-hard bop, but it alludes to free jazz in places just because these guys are stretching the limits of improvisation, so they break the boundaries of pure straight four and just take it out. The solos are remarkable, beginning with Woody Shaw's solos on this album. They're just brilliant. He's incredibly lyrical. He has a great tone. He plays like machine gun burst at times that just take your head off. I mean, what an incredible trumpet player he was, and a great composer. And actually, all the solos on this record are great. This is probably the best recording I've ever heard of Lenny White. Lenny White has agreed to do an interview with me for the channel talking about this. We haven't set a time yet. I've never heard George Cable sound like this, playing both standard piano and Rhodes, or maybe Wurlitzer or clavinet, like clavinet. And I've heard a lot of George Cable's records, and they're just like in the pocket, hard bop, swinging. But he's just unleashed on this record. Gary Bartz, similarly killer, Clint Jones, and of course Ron Carter has his usual anchor weight playing along with oddities. Ron's always ready to go into left field for some strange reason. I interviewed Ron Carter once and he said, "I'm not just a bass player, I'm a scientist." And he is a scientist. But the compositions, the arrangements, the soloing is so brilliant. This is a 4-sided double LP, and there's not a boring note on the whole thing. It is so engrossing and inspired and invigorating. It's a miracle of a record. And the cover is so great. I love the cover. And Woody talks about, in the liner notes, the fact that basically this is a record recorded for the ghetto. He says he grew up in the ghetto. So I see this as a record. It's 1970, the 60s is over, and we had, the Back to Africa movement. We had the free jazz movement, represented by various factions from LA to New York to Detroit to Chicago, which was pushing the music way beyond the hard bop boundaries that most people liked in jazz, and probably alienated a lot of people as well. But this music reflects all of that. This record is so intense and driving and on the edge, but it's also very beautiful in spots. Think on Me, the George Cables tune, is really beautiful. It's kind of a place to rest, but the whole record is just remarkable. One of the greatest jazz albums I've ever heard. Easily one of my top 20 greatest jazz albums of all time. This idea that jazz in the early 70s was over in the U.S. until Dexter Gordon moved back, or that Wynton Marsalis saved it. It's just so much bullshit. There was so much great jazz being made. I know at least in New York, and I did a video, I think last summer, of all these amazing records on labels like Mainstream and Muse and Catalyst and Inner City. People who didn't leave New York City, who were still making really visceral, hard-edged, funkier sort of jazz. And this is maybe the ultimate example of that. This was cut at Rudy Van Gelder's, I believe. Nope. Recorded December 8th and 9th, 1970 at AR Studios in New York City. Produced by Lester Koenig. But it reflects that whole sensation of the riots and Watts burning and Detroit burning and the intensity of the Black Power movement. That's all in this record, because this record sounds like it could have been recorded yesterday. It's so visceral and in touch, and the solos are so gritty. I mean, I've never heard Lenny White sound like this. He is just on fire. Unfortunately, Lenny's not recorded very well on the record. His drums are in the middle. They're just not recorded very well for whatever reason, which is kind of strange. This is a strange record for Contemporary. Contemporary is the label of Art Pepper and Shelly Manne, you know, and Barney Kessel and all those guys. There's no other record on Contemporary like this. I almost wish this had been recorded by Roy Dunan in California, but it's recorded at A&R Studios that did all kinds of music in New York at the time. It was a very popular studio. Unfortunately, the drums don't sound very good, but everything else sounds great. It's very present and really clean. I just, as a drummer, and particularly because Lenny is playing so incredibly well, I wish the drums had been better remastered. I guess you can only work with what you have to begin with. Anyway, if you're wondering about this record, or if you've seen this, you don't know what it is, if you're ready from us for a serious blast of emotive, visceral, cooking, hardcore jazz, you need to buy Blackstone Legacy by Woody Shaw on Jazz Dispensary. What a phenomenal record this is. Thanks for watching, kids.